Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the D Line. My name is Malibongwe Mdletshe. With me to speak football today, we are returning back the legendary Herman Gibbs. Last week he snapped us. Today he's back. And then we've got our top football scribe, Mihlali Baleka. The D Line, soon to be everyone's food podcast, is courtesy of The Clutch, your YouTube IOL sports show. So do subscribe to us, check us at The Clutch on YouTube, and follow all our video content there, profiled by or compiled by our top sports scribes and their opinions and takes about all the happenings in the sports world. Gentlemen, welcome. Let me start with Mr. Gibbs. Welcome back, Mr. Gibbs.
Yeah, thank you for the overwhelming welcome. I've been out of town for a few days and I was delighted to meet so many followers of the D line in KZN. They really love the program and it looks like Mihlali is their favorite of all time.
Oh, Mr. Gibbs.
Yeah, Mr. Baleka is everyone's favorite. You know that. Welcome, sir. How are
I
you?
wish. No, I'm doing well, gents. Okay, great to be back. And yeah, what an exciting weekend of sport that we have. And obviously, yeah, we still continue with the build up to AFCON and then the World Cup with Bafana Bafana.
Talking about Bafana Bafana, where are your 2010 Zakumi jerseys? Did you you throw them away? Because I mean, we should. I think from now on we should start donning them when we're recording the D line.
I'm not sure where mine is. Hey, it's been how many years now? It's more than 15 years already, so you can imagine. And
Yeah.
also the number of sponsors that have come in, and now that there's another one that is outgoing so much, so it's been quite a ride.
So the Bafana jersey will always be a Bafana jersey, but no.
No, there are those iconic ones that you can never get rid of. I'm sure Mr. Gibbs still has one from, I think, when he won our first AFCON in 1996.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, no, I've given mine away already because I wore it once and after that there were so many requests. I once wore it I was visiting Zimbabwe a few years ago. And people walked after me just in the hope of me taking my jersey off and giving it to them.
Cool, cool. Thank you, Jack, man. Maybe let's stick with Bafana Bafana then. We've seen Hugo Broos has announced the preliminary squad for the upcoming FIFA break, and there are a lot of new faces in the preliminary squad. As we build up, I mean, what is the sense, that you'd say Hugo Broos should be on now? Should he try and perfect the combinations that he already has, or maybe it's time maybe that he expands his pool with these new faces we are seeing in this preliminary squad?
Yeah, look, we know how Hugo Bruce thinks. Basically, this is a squad just to remind players that he has got them in mind. They are not necessarily the players that he'll be selecting in his final 23. But these are the players that he's keeping an eye on just in case, because sooner or later there are suspensions, there are injuries, and other players will have to come into the picture. But the important thing is that Hugo and his technical staff, they are keeping an eye on players who who have claims to selection. My only concern is maybe they're not paying enough attention to players playing elsewhere, and that might be got to do with the lack of resources. But somebody like Tim, because he's been doing well. He's been in the media, and let's hope that he sooner or later also comes into the picture. He's got a lot to offer.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, no, Lodge is another topic altogether. Is back to it. Mihlali, like Mr. Gibbs is saying that it's a nice psychology that is planting into the players that they are actually, part of his plans going forward, even though necessarily it might not be those who are going to the final 23 going to these tournaments. I mean, your take on that one, I think maybe that will help also raise the standards as we once talked about, Bafana's qualification having to raise the standards of football locally.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because also, I think you will remember when we had a roundtable chat with him at Suffer House a few days back, he did say that his squad for AFCON is already all but complete. I think it will be about 2 to 3 changes that will probably come into the team. But he's got to keep one eye out on the fact that what if one of his players that he would obviously call up on any other day is injured. So these are the players that maybe he's just maybe looking at their names at the moment, saying that if I do maybe select you for the friendly against Zambia, it might not necessarily mean that you will actually make the cut in the final squad, because there's someone that I've already seen and then will already be active to actually get into the team. So let's wait and see. It's going to be quite interesting with the number of players that you'd want to bring into that friendly against Zambia, because there are names that surely you would think to yourself that will go to AFCON. I mean, with the goalkeeping department as well, Ricardo Cost for me hasn't been, informed to actually get a note for AFCON, but Hugo wants to keep the stability, wants to keep the camaraderie within the players going. So for this friend, it's going to be quite interesting to see whether will he stick to his tried and tested, the players that is already assured of that he will take to that trip to Morocco, or you want to infuse in new players.
Yeah. No, thanks. I think you are opening something else there, but to leave it for another day, the issue of Ricardo Costa, because I mean, Hugo Boss has not been the one to, to maybe to overemphasize loyalty over performance or over form. So, but look, that's a topic for another day. What I want to get to as well, we've seen Orlando Pirates being beaten out of the CAF Champions League, and the value of competing in the Champions League, especially when you go into AFCON, it's just invaluable. How is it going to affect Bafana Bafana? Having so many, because there's so many Paris players in Bafana squad, and for them to be out of the Champions League, one would say maybe they're going to lose that experience, that understanding that would be very valuable going to AFCON.
No, that's a good point, but somehow, we've just got to accept it for what it is. And the one positive thing that emerges from Pirates failing to make the Champions League is the fact that they won't be overworked. Unlike the Sundowns players, they will have to contend with regular Champions League group stage matches. Pirates won't have that labor. They'll be resting their players, and so in the long run, it could also benefit Bafana because the way things are now, it could be that Pirates may just have one or two more players in the AFCON squad than Sundowns.
Yeah, true. And Hugo was actually talking about wishing out Pirates, wishing Pirates out of Carlin. So I guess he got one of the. Yeah. Mihlali, there you were also there at the press conferences during the week. I mean, do you share the same sentiment with Mr. Gibbs? I mean, you do feel like sometimes players are having quite a tight schedule.
Yeah, no. You have to actually feel for the players, and especially when it comes to Sundowns. Remember, Miguel Cardoso has been going on about how they've never had preseason compared to the rest of the 15 teams in the league, which is true. But also, it comes with the job, to be quite honest, and also the experience. Because if you remember very well, the experience that Sundowns players had heading into the last AFCON in Ivory Coast was very crucial for the national team. We went there and then they dominated, and then we got a podium finish. Yeah, Pirates now are not part of the group stages, and that could go either way. They could be well rested, eager to give more when they're called up to the national team, but also the experience that they were going to get in Africa was going to come in very handy. I think one of the factors that media colleagues were actually speaking about was the fact that had maybe Abdeslam Wadu started with the Bafana players in their first leg in the DRC, maybe the result couldn't have been that 3-0 deficit coming back home, but he didn't, and they had to try to do it the hard way when they got back to South Africa. They did well getting to the penalties, but that was not enough. So yeah, let's see what would happen in the next few weeks as we head to AFCON, but also the domestic schedule, and also when do the group stages start, how many games would have been played by then. So those are the factors that we probably have to weigh in as as we build closer and closer to the event in Morocco.
Yeah, true. I mean, coaches do this thing of changing. We were seeing just the other day, in fact, yesterday, a certain Arne Slot changed the whole squad when he was playing Crystal Palace and in the League Cup, and then walloped, and then he's giving excuses that he's got so many games for Liverpool coming through. But then one can also argue that in '95, Pirates went all the way to the Champions League, and then we end up winning the AFCON with Bafana Bafana. So it's a give and take. I get you, Mihlali, that it comes with the job to actually go and play all these tournaments. Maybe sticking with national teams, we also have Banyana Banyana that is qualified for the WAFCON. We know the last one they were beaten in semi-finals. They were not able to defend their 2022 cup. Maybe how big this for Banyana Banyana? We know that they are regulars there now, but looking at the dynamics and the problems that are actually surrounding the team, the instability with the technical team not being settled, Coach Desiree is not, agreeing terms with the association. I mean, obviously it's crucial that they qualify, but do you feel that maybe something will give? Maybe the sponsors, Corporate South Africa, SAFA will come through and that will actually, help Bafana's cause going to WAFCON, which, by the way, is also a Women's World Cup qualifier.
Well, the latest is that Desiree Ellis has agreed to terms with the SAFA. She signed on Friday. So it's good for her because I'm sure her ego must have taken a bit of a knock because the team played 2 games without her and managed to qualify for WAFCON. So you start thinking, can they really do without her? And the other thing that no one has raised is that Tembi, all of a sudden now that Desiree wasn't available, she's decided to make herself available again. But the last time they played, they said no. So I wonder if one can read something into that there might just be 1 or 2 people who are not happy to have a Desiree Ellis around. But Desiree Ellis is now back in the frame. It is difficult to gauge how this team will do because, first of all, the adequate preparations will not be in place. And but we've seen in South African football now, especially with the under-17s, they hardly had training time. They were put up with all kinds of difficulties, but they did well at the World Cup. So it's hard to say. I feel that a lot of our girls have picked up a lot of experience overseas, and that's helped Banyana when they played their matches. These overseas goals have really carried the side. So I'm hoping that they will continue in that vein and that, they'll start getting the resources so that the team can be better prepared for WAFCON this time.
Yes. Mihlali, you have been with Banyana, been following Banyana closely, especially as we recall that you were at the last World Cup. I mean, as Mr. Gibbs says, the coach, his ego may have taken a knock, but I guess it's actually a positive thing that they are, the technical teams, that means that's strengthened. I'm not sure about. Yeah, that's a story for another day again. When you look at the situation of Kgatlana, not availing herself and then availing herself, that one will need to be investigated. But I'm just looking at this one,
Yeah, no. What I'm thinking to myself is that remember, I think when these players were called up, they were initially called up by Coach Des. Then the uncertainty of whether she will be living with the team for the DRC and then coming back home was still hanging up until the 11th hour, where her assistant Tina Songembuli had to leave with the team. But I don't think there were much changes when it comes to that technical team, to be quite honest, because the players are used to Coach Tina because she has been with the team for quite some time, and the majority of the local based players also know her very well because she's the head coach of the UWC ladies team. But I think what is important for this team going forward, I'm not sure whether maybe starting with this WAFCON or after WAFCON heading to the World Cup, if you qualify for the World Cup, hopefully which we do, is the fact that we need a succession plan. We cannot be relying on players like Tembi, Hilda, Linda to come to the rescue just because they come from abroad. We need to actually make it a point that we've got our own dynamites who are able to stand up whenever that they are not there. Because eventually, I think they will also want to say that we've done our part and now let's send over the baton to the rest of the players. So what is the succession plan? Especially if it's SAFA now they've decided to retain Coach Des. Because I feel like if maybe someone newer with brighter ideas, I don't know, maybe even Coach Tina would have actually maybe come up with plans to make it a point that we try to slowly but surely move away from depending on our so-called superstars, because it just seems that whenever that they're not there, then there's something that is not clicking with the national team.
Yeah.
And obviously, heading to WAFCON, we need to get to that semi-final spot so that to qualify for the World Cup.
Look, you are one, Mr. Gibbs. I'm trying to not get into this point, but clearly there's something to get to here because it makes both of you are making a point that it gets to a situation where it looks like it's either you retain the stars that you have or Coach Des. It seems there's a
Yeah,
rift
you
there
understand?
somewhere. Maybe they've outgrown or grown apart or drifted apart from each other, whatever the perfect English says. Is that the case? Maybe. I mean, is that the case? I mean, that's the sense you are giving me here.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the team is long time outgrown Desiree Ellis. I think it was just a question of economics that she's still been around. The fact that she worked for so long without a contract, she was quite happy to do that. And I think it was in her own interest that she signed the contract because I think Safa would have been quite happy to carry on without her and get people in the place and maybe still succeed in the job.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Thank you for that,
But
Mr.
then the
Gibbs.
question comes then, if she's able to stay at SAFA for how long? That doesn't hasn't she outgrown SAFA? Mustn't she be maybe out there looking for something more challenging? I mean, Coach does 62 years of age, so how many more years does she still have in herself to actually, try to transform this team? Because we know modern football that is changing with each and every time. We've seen what she's done for the national team, and it will be a record that will maybe be read to for years. But was it maybe the time now for her and Safa to agree to cut ties, to look at it, what they've done as an achievement? Because like now, things need to change, and we always know that with changes, it doesn't mean that you hit the ground running. There will be obstacles here and there, especially if you have to replace players like Timby, your Hildas, and all that. So maybe with someone newer, the transformation phase could have been understood better compared to someone who's been with the team for quite some time. Because I feel for one that the changes should have been long done, and also maybe the thing about her and the players, maybe being apart, we cannot run away from the statement that Jermaine Seposeno said, about how she didn't have the backing of the team when the chips were down and all that. So especially when it comes to the senior players were there, they've seen it, and they might be a sort of way that now they're looking at Coach Des as the leader of this team. But yeah, maybe it's a story that we need to have just for one day specifically.
Yeah, we will actually, I will pencil it down. We'll have to go more in depth on that one because it also speaks to, the desire, to do something else other than Mayana. We've seen the likes of Coach Pitso, Rulani, Fatu Davids, and going out of the country. And Sirabe Letsaga, currently we have been working in Tanzania. Maybe she needs to go that avenue as well. But it's cool. Let's come back home, gentlemen, to the Betway Premiership. We have a big one this weekend, which can go a long way into telling the tempo of the league race. Pirates going to Mamelodi Sundowns on Saturday. I mean, it doesn't get bigger than that, I would say, especially looking at the Pirates having to now, focus all their energies on domestic dominance. What should we relate from this? Could this be the time the Pirates really shows that now they are on to Sundowns?
Well, I think for the sake of South African football, my money will be on Orlando Pirates. I
Yeah,
hope they'll win the match today. Put the brakes on Sundowns. I mean, for years they've been running away with the league. It's been the one horse race, and we would like to see that coming to an end. And we are relying on Pirates really to produce the goods today. And I think, and I've been talking to Mihlali and I have been warming up for this D-Line podcast for the past few days. We've been looking forward to this great anticipation. And I said to him, Mihlali, I think Pirates has got the greater hunger to win this game, and I think that's going to make the difference today. Mihlali might disagree with me because he's a strong Pirates man.
No,
yeah.
no, no, Mr. Gibbs.
Michelle, you went the presser there. So, yeah, I think Smith, let's take a
Yeah, no,
spiel there.
Yeah, I was at the press conference on Thursday afternoon at Clocop, where the Sundowns representative, Coach Miguel Cardoso, together with defender Opri Modiba, was they were talking about the game. I think specifically what I read into was how Aubrey said that this game is important, especially now that the two teams, that is Sundowns and Paris, are producing a lot of players for the national team. So the banter continues. Whenever that after this game has been played, when the players are assembled for the national team, and also you mentioned the fact that obviously if we win, we'll get an edge, over Paris, because remember the point difference now is just only 3 points. If Pirates win, then the goal level with Sundowns on 21. But if Sundowns win, then they extend the gap to 6 points, even though Pirates will still have a game in hand. But yeah, there are a lot of factors that are going to go into this game, because also it's not all Sundowns might be top of the log at the moment. To agree is, but it's not. It hasn't always been no rosy and cozy, especially when it comes to Coach Miguel Cardoso. He's still under pressure, especially given the fact that not everyone, including the Sundowns fans, are convinced that they are playing the brand of football, Shine and Piano, that they probably have seen under the former coaches Rulani and Pitos and all that. So heading to that match, it will be quite interesting to see whether Sundowns will be able to replicate that thrashing of last season 4-1 at home. You'll remember Lucas Ribeiro being the standout guy, but also Paris were able to actually avenge the defeat when they came to the return leg at FNP Stadium. But going to the game tomorrow is going to be one hell of a game that I think that could actually show a small details. It's not yet a defining game for the season, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
There's
true,
still
true.
about 20 more games to be played, but it's a game that will be testament to how the season might actually pan out.
Yeah. Well, and what have you got to say for yourself there? Mr. Gibbs says you're a strong Pirates man.
Uh, what? Sorry, I didn't catch that. My
Yeah.
battery was just running low. Sorry, I didn't catch that.
No, I was asking what has he got to say for himself when you say he's a strong Pirates man.
Oh,
No, no, no,
yes.
no, 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 no,
No
no, no,
question
no,
should
no,
remain
no.
unanswered. Yeah.
That couldn't be further from the. That
Well,
couldn't be further from
that
the truth.
that's the reason why. That's the reason why he's wearing all black today. Gibbs is,
Hallelujah,
he's normally in blue, but
Yeah.
that's a
hallelujah,
very significant pointer. He's there for the skull and bones.
I
hallelujah.
no, we will see. We will see. We'll be watching
Yeah,
all
no, I'm
those.
like it's one of those interesting games of the season, to be honest. One that you anticipate and look forward to. It is always you are guaranteed goals, you are guaranteed action, you are guaranteed all sorts of thrills and spills. So let's hope that it will continue. To actually deliver on what it has shown us for the past 3 seasons.
Yeah, yeah. Well, staying in Soweto and the big three, Kaizer Chiefs are actually breezing when you look at their fixtures. I mean, they have all these, well, in the name of a big team, there are all these small teams, a string of them, all the way going to December. Looking at the Devon City, they have Orbit College on Tuesday, and after the break, there's Magesi, Chipa, and Gallants. They have this string of small team games coming through. Could this mean this will be the time for them to maybe this will give a time for Coach Gadzi there to get his team correct? Maybe there'll be less pressure, gentlemen. I think there was a network issue there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I was talking about Kaizer Chiefs, just that as we are talking about the big three, well, Sundowns and Pirates having to duel. Uh, but now Kaizer Chiefs have, they have a string of, I would say, small teams, for lack of a better word. Devon City, they've got Orbit, they've got Gallants, Magesi, all the way to December. Uh, could this be a period where the coaching staff at Kaizer Chiefs get a chance to actually, work their magic without that much pressure?
Who are
Well,
the coaching staff in Kaizer Chiefs?
this Kaizer Chiefs team is a bit unpredictable, and they had a good win last week, 3 goals. They surprised everyone, but my feeling is that the players are giving a bit more now that Nabi is gone. It looks like they're giving the game, they're putting more into the game under Cedric Kazi. But tonight they're up against Gavin Hunt, their former coach, and he knows a thing or two about Kaizer Chiefs. So we can expect maybe Kaizer Chiefs winning run will come to an end.
Yeah. Mihlali, your take on that
Now, my
one?
question was, who's the coach at Chiefs? Because firstly, the head coach Nasruddin Nabi was released, and then we were told that Cedric Kaza together with Khalil Benisov will be co-coaches until the end of the season. Chiki. The other one has gone back home, and then was supposed to come back, shortly. But a week went on, and then we haven't seen him in the dugout. So yeah, but I think like Mr. Gibbs has justifiably said that.
We are talking what we know. It seems we have more insights. Give us the insight.
No,
Because
I'm also where you are, Jens. I'm also where you are. But what I'm trying to get to is that also if Chiefs, I think, managed to score because they are winless in the last 3 games in the league. You understand? And they haven't been able to score, unfortunately. I think they were saving the goals for the qualifiers for the group stage of the Confederations Cup. But yeah, heading to the game against Durban City, Coach Kevin, will always have a bone to pick with Chiefs, especially after he was abruptly, sacked a few years ago. But if Chiefs, I think if they manage to get goals and also continue to keep clean sheets, especially in the league, I think there will be a turnover, and then they can actually take the streak to the rest of the year. And also with also Sundowns, set to play in the Champions League, and then Pirates in the Carling knockout. Maybe that might be the time for them to actually slowly but surely, just sneak up the lock, and hopefully by the time that we go to the AFCON break, and then they've actually made some good strides there.
Yeah, no, very interesting features for them ahead of the AFCON break, and we'll actually be, watching the space to to understand exactly who's actually leading the Kaizer Chiefs dugout. As you mentioned, that Khalid Ben Yosef has since gone home and hasn't returned. So we need to understand what's going on. But we'll see if Kaizer is again alone in the dugout. I mean, that will tell us a lot about what's going on there. Talking about those big ones, we've seen Stellenbosch. The Chiefs are down at Stellies, gentlemen. Midweek they were up 4-0 by Gallants. I mean, what's going on? I don't even know what to ask regarding the situation in Stellenbosch. But what's going on at Stellies?
Well, it's very difficult to pinpoint what went on in that midweek game. They lost 4-0. But Walker surprisingly said that they trailed 1-0 at halftime, and they were extremely unlucky. I had a look at the stats. Stellenbosch had greater possession, but Gallants had as many shots on at goal as Stellenbosch, which tells you that the Stellenbosch defense must have been suspect, that they allowed the Marumba Gallants players to get in position to have shots at goal, even though they did not have the same amount of possession. But he also pointed the fact that they weren't awarded a first half penalty when he thought it was an obvious penalty. And then secondly, he claims that the goal that Gallants' first goal was scored from an offside position. And all of those things, he said, contributed to the eventual heavy defeat. He said it was one game in which all our bad luck came together at one time. So that is the state of affairs at Stellenbosch, and it's over to you, Mihlali, for your input.
Yeah, no, Mr. Gibbs, I think you'll win some and you'll lose some. But what I think for Stellies now, the succession plan, I'm not sure that it hasn't been going so well. And also, you must remember, is that, last season they were also playing in Africa. And maybe the fact that they had to still decide how to actually go about, replacing players, key figures that they will probably lose, it hasn't quite gone according to plan. Maybe the new players that have come in haven't actually quite grasped what is it that is required of them and all that. Because you must remember, Stellies have shown that they are a selling team. and they are bound to actually hit a few knocks here and there. But what actually pleasing for them is that they are back on the continent, and that momentum hopefully would actually give them time to be mature enough to understand that they must be able to juggle between domestic and continental football, because at the end of the day, where their bread is buttered, in order for you to qualify for African football, you have to be doing well domestically. So let's hope that maybe just before AFCON, they will be able to hit a few right notes and get a few wins, so that heading after the after the AFCON break, they're able to run with the momentum, and then they have a clean bill of health. Because also they don't have a lot of players who will probably go away. I think will probably be Thabo Moilusane. So maybe the break will also give them some time to actually fine tune where they haven't been able to do during preseason.
Yeah. No. On that note, gentlemen, we can only hope for the best as we prepare for the West. But with Bafana Bafana doing great things at the moment, I don't think anyone is expecting, any West at this stage. Gentlemen, thank you again for coming through and giving us your insight to make yet another great episode, an insightful episode of the D-Line. Thank you very much, gentlemen. See you next week. Over and out.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. May the force be with you.
Same to you, Mr. Gibbs. Thank you.
Hey, bye bye.
Sure. Aye, man.